Hi everybody, I am Marna Goldstein-Thal and I am the owner of Thin Within and thinwithinyou.com. And while I was meditating today, I had this big opening that told me that I needed to record this information. And mainly it was really about telling you and showing you the craziness of dieting. And when I was looking at this whole diet rock bottom. Have you heard of that? Have you experienced that where you have dieted and you just can't diet any longer? It becomes something that I experienced, and I know thousands of you have experienced as I've worked with over 7,000 people in my career. And it just becomes one of those things where you can't diet anymore. The thought of being on something and watching your caloric intake or counting points or doing something of that nature is absolutely something you no longer can do. Well, that's really good news when you hit that space. And the reason is that there's no reason that you have to suffer any longer. You can be thin and you don't have to diet. Let me tell you a few things about what happens when you diet. And you can tell me if you can relate to this. When you diet, do you ever feel like there's sort of a diet backlash, that at the end of a diet, that all of a sudden you start to overeat, or you eat all those things or binge on all those things that you haven't been able to eat in the last, whatever it was, week, 2 weeks, 5 months, however long the diet was? It's very common. And what happens then with all that eating, that's when you start to put the weight back on. You experience binging. Then you experience greater depression and frustration for all the work that you put in to that diet. It really is what I call a diet backlash. Or you go on a food binge. You just start eating and eating and eating, and you feel out of control because you've been so in control. There's sort of this law of what I call the food universe. And I believe that anytime you keep yourself from eating certain foods, you will binge on those certain foods. It may not be in a week, it may not even be in a month, but at some point, if you've said no, no, no to yourself, then you will see an equal and opposite binge. Other things, you may feel that you don't deserve to eat because you've been so good, or that you do deserve to eat because you've been so good. That is very common at the end of a diet, is that you go through this sort of withdrawal. What do I eat now that I'm sort of on my own? Or, oh my gosh, I was so good that now I'm going to binge. Or you find that your diet span is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So you may have been able to diet or watch things for 30 days or 60 days, and now you find, gosh, it's painful to do it for a week or two. That's because of this diet mentality cycle. So let's talk about what you can do. There is a huge phenomenon, and it's continuing to take place in the diet industry with seeing so many more advertisements for pills, for diets, you see shakes, you see energy drinks. I mean, it's everywhere. Everything's telling you that there's something wrong with you. And I would like to be the first to say that there's nothing wrong with you. If you would like to make the change with your body, then what we have to first do is make the change with your mind. Your mind will absolutely and is absolutely directing your whole course of success, your whole course of action. So we've got to make sure that your mind, it feels good, feels powerful, knows exactly what it wants, knows what direction we're going in, and you can do something for the rest of your life. You never want to go on something that you have to go off of. What I love about Thin Within is that it's something that you go on and you stay on and you stay on and you stay on. There's nothing to ever go off of, because when you understand the psychology of a thin person, you understand that there's nothing to go on and nothing to go off of. So what's the first thing? First thing I want you to do is to determine what is it that you want. If you've been saying, well, duh, Marna, the thing I want is to lose weight, well, you may have been saying that for 5 months or 5 years or 50 years, but it has no meaning anymore. Why do you want to lose weight? What do you want to do with your new body? What do you want to do? Once you've determined that, then I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and feel. Feel what it is that you've just written down. Feel how good, how amazing, how incredible it will be to have this thin you show up. And I want you to feel that. That's your first thing to do. Now, once you've done that, then I want you to start living as though you are thin. Start living it as though it already exists. Start doing the things you've been putting off. Start being the person that you want to be, and you will see amazing results. All right? So get rid of the diets. They don't work. They don't work. They may work for some of you for a short amount of time, but any time you feel deprived, there will be an equal and opposite binge. And I don't want you to experience that anymore. All right? So make that change. Make that change today. Determine what it is you want, and then start taking action as though you already are that person. All right. Signing off. Bye, everybody.